let me start at the very beginning. Earlier this year,
Oh my God, just say what it is
a
already.
new cinema opened in Brunswick. It's on Lygon Street, a wonderful icon of Brunswick and Carlton, a core part of the northern suburbs experience of Melbourne. And this cinema is called FOMO Cinemas. You may have heard us talk about it before. We're not sponsored, but at this point, we bloody well should be. And one of the things that FOMO Cinemas did for their big opening introduction few weeks was that they showed some old cult movies. I don't remember any of the ones that they showed, except for this one. And so a few of us decided, hey, this movie sounds fun. We should go, but we should also not know anything about it going in and have no idea what we're going into. And that plan worked perfectly because we stepped into the cinema with no idea that we were about to witness the cult-ish, classic-ish, movie-ish Death in Brunswick.
Death in Brunswick, that's where I live.
That's where the podcast closet is located.
That's where that cinema is that we went and saw this movie at.
That's where the cone of silence sits.
What is this movie set in Brunswick?
This movie is sure set in Brunswick.
Is it filmed in Brunswick?
Yeah!
When
Asterisk.
when did it come out?
1990.
Who stars in it?
Sam Neill.
And
John Clark.
And
Zoe Caritas.
great.
How many of those are born in Australia?
How many?
0.
What? None of them?
0.
Sam Neill's famously a New Zealander.
Correct.
What about the other two?
John Clark, New Zealand.
Bloody hell.
Zoe, UK.
Ah.
She plays a Greek Australian. She was born in Britain.
Is she Greek?
I don't know.
Cool.
Now, Sam Neill famously went on to star in Jurassic Park 3 years later.
Before this or after this?
After this.
Okay.
But it's obligatory to ask the question every time this comes up. Mm-hmm. And then went on to have a long and successful career. Everyone else in this has not done many more movies. Or they have, but I've never heard of any of them. They're called like Neighborhood Dogs or like Intense Plane Movie.
I'm pretty sure, I think when I was researching this movie, Zoe has been in something kind of recently.
That's interesting.
I don't remember what it was.
Was it to television?
Maybe.
I'll have a little look-see. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the plot of Death in Brunswick?
No way, because I'm going to find it before you. Hold on.
Yeah, you are. Stalling for time. Stolen for time.
Interceptor, 2022.
That's not real.
Yeah, real movie.
Oh, fascinating. It's a real movie.
She plays President Wallace.
There you go. So look, these people have all gone on to have real acting careers. I just think it's interesting that this is the one that, like, I bet they get asked about this movie all the time.
I bet nobody asks anyone about this movie. I think that this is such a niche movie that really no one has very much seen at all, and nobody ever gets asked about it. Because when you think about it, the only reason why we found out about this is because we happened to be living in Brunswick. There happened to be a cinema opening on Lygon Street, and they happened to be showing this movie. And we happened to decide to go. You know, like it is very, otherwise we would have no idea that
like
this
the chain
exists.
of events required to get to us knowing about this movie is tenuous and long and thin.
So this movie, look, I had a great time when we first watched it. It was shocking, it was awing, and ever since let's be honest, we've watched it a few more times.
Oh, we maybe have seen this maybe more than once.
We've maybe seen it like 6, I think,
We've
times
maybe
now.
seen it 6 times.
And when did we see it for the first time? It was like February? Okay. Yeah, so we've seen it quite a few times.
About once a month-ish.
About once a month. We have some thoughts. I think that this movie is probably one of the best films I've ever seen. It after we watched it, it did go on my Letterboxd top 4.
Is it still there?
Yeah, it's still, and that's what I was about to say, and it remains there to this day.
Oh boy!
Now, is it perfect? No, but is it close to perfect? I think yes. Is it one of those movies where each watch you get something more out of it? For sure. Like, we've watched this 6 times and I'm still discovering things about it. I'm wanting to entrench myself in the world of Death in Brunswick more and more, so much to the fact that I am currently reading the book that it was based on as well. same title, Death in Brunswick, written by Boyd Oxlade, released only a couple of years before the movie came out. Basically the only book that he wrote that did well, I think.
There's something about Death in Brunswick that just screams, only thing that did well. The book, the movie. I just feel like it's one of those moments where a bunch of people who are just going about their lives come together and they build something that's just slightly more noticeable than everything else they've worked on.
I think you're giving it too much credit because once again, I don't think everyone that we've mentioned this movie to has said, oh, like Zed and Brunt, like is that, what is this? Nobody knows what it is. If we talked, this isn't fucking Rocky Horror Picture Show. This isn't The Room. Cult classic, as you said before, is a stretch. Like, nobody knows about this film. I know for a fact that this episode, our big 50th episode, going to do very poorly based on the fact that nobody knows about this.
I think you're right.
Don't give it that much credit. But this film and the book that I'm holding in my hand as well, they follow the story of this guy named Carl. He's living in Brunswick. He's a bit, I wouldn't say down on his luck, but he's a bit of a grub. He's a grub of a man.
He's just a bit down. I don't think luck has much to do with it.
He kind of likes his life. He seems like he's sort of cruising through. Well, he's drinking a lot. He's doing some drugs, and he's working at a club in Brunswick. And he seems to, not aspire for more than he has. He's content with how he's living.
But not aspiring for more than one has does not necessarily mean that one is satisfied with what one has. It just means that he can't be motivated getting out there and
but he has one of the key pillars in this story is that he has no motivation to do anything.
Here's your protagonist. Anyway,
it's one of those stories where things happen to the main character. The main character isn't like a driving force, which I appreciate. I do.
Life feels like that sometimes.
I like that. Yeah, when. Sure, it can be done badly where it's boring.
Sure.
You're like, well, this character really has no character arc. What am I even here for? But when it's done right and the things that are happening to the character are interesting enough and the character is very reactionary to what's happening, especially in a funny way because this is a black comedy, I think it really works. So anyways.
I think it really works the first time.
Okay, have you gone down on this film since it's first watching it?
No, I wasn't quite sure. I was exactly how my opinion had changed. I knew that I was definitely not enjoying it quite as much because the surprise of the first watch wasn't there. But I thought, let's check the tape. Because the wonderful service Letterboxd tells me exactly how I was feeling every watch. Mm-hmm. In February, I gave it 4 stars. In March, I gave it 3.5 stars. In April, I gave it 3 stars. In May, I gave it 3 stars. In June, I gave it 2.5 stars. And in July, I gave it 2 stars, and I really struggled to get through.
See, I feel like if it's going down that considerably at that consistent of a rate, you're fudging the system. You want it to go down. There's no way it's going down by a 0.5 star almost every month.
Well, that's what I thought. But if I wanted the narrative of me in this movie, of our relationship to be slowly downward, I would have curated it slower, right? Because we're going to watch this many more times. But I sat there as the opening credits played. And for the first 3 minutes of the movie, I was like, oh, yeah, I'm in. And then I think that we must have been up to the point where the main character, Carl, said something for the first time. And then suddenly the entirety of the movie that was yet to play stretched out before me like a dry, flat, painful, boring desert. I like this movie.
Do you?
I think I struggle to watch it maybe this often. I'm like, I've just recovered from my last Death in Brunswick. Oh, it's here. It's here again.
Every time I watch it, I don't think I have the same experience, but I don't think that any new experience watching a movie really negates an old one in that way.
For sure.
Like I'm not a person to watch a movie over and over again. Genuinely not. Yeah. There have been few times in my life where I have. A couple of times, I remember when what's that John Green book?
Looking for Alaska?
No, the other one.
Fault in Our Stars.
Yeah, when that movie
Oh
came
my
out,
God, you're a Fault in Our Stars kid?
I watched that like at least 10 times within a couple of months. Like
Wow.
I was big into that.
Wow.
But besides that, I really don't rewatch anything. I think it's kind of a waste of time. It's like I've already experienced this. Why not experience something new? But
There are going to be so many people who are so pissed about that line.
it's true.
I so get you. I'm with you. I'm just glad that you said it, not me.
I don't want to waste my time. So, but Death in Brunswick, I think because we have been watching it, we've decided to watch it every month as sort of a ritual, and we're watching with different people, and we have that experience. That's part of it. But also, then I get to appreciate it through the eyes of new people as well. It's like, I love this reveal, and I love every time it happens because it's still surprising for someone in the experience. And then I get to I appreciate. It's like a plot twist. If you know a plot twist down to the T, like the second time you watch it, I don't know, M. Night Shyamalan film, the plot twist probably isn't going to hit as hard. But if you're watching it with people who haven't seen that, it reminds you to appreciate the craft of that twist that might not be working on you now because it's been spoiled. You know, does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I agree. The moments that I'm enjoying this the most are when I'm tapping into the experience of watching it the first time. Whether that's watching someone who is new to it, or remembering how I felt, or if it's noticing something new and being reminded of what it's like when this film surprises you. Definitely. And yeah, just because I've watched it many times since and had different experiences of it does not in any way detract from the absolute wild night that we had the first time we watched this.
Yeah. No, I get that. I do get that. And it is a wild story. So like I was saying, it follows Carl going, just plotting about Brunswick. He happens to be working at this club, working as a chef. He has a kitchen hand, Mustafa, and I don't know, Shanigan's Shoe? Shanigan's Shoe. He also has a love interest in Zoe's character, whose name's Sophie. There's tensions there. There's tensions everywhere. Like it's a great black comedy. Everything. There are so many great reveals in this film. Where you might feel uncomfortable about certain situations or certain circumstances that the characters are placed in, and you don't, you just have this underlying feeling of, maybe something's up. And then when it's revealed that something's up, it hits well. I think also looking at this as a film that was made, 30 or so years ago, you're like, I wonder if, I don't know, the gang tensions is like just a thing because it's a 90s film and a bit insensitive, or there's two characters who are into each other but they seems like there's an age gap. Maybe it's not actually a thing because it's 30 years ago or whatever. So when they do address it, it's kind of like a fun surprise.
Okay, yep.
If that makes sense. Maybe that's just my naivete of what the state of the world and storytelling in the film industry in 1991. But
well, I match your complete ignorance with having no idea what was happening in Melbourne northern suburbs in the 90s. Like, all of this is unfamiliar to me. Some of it's like, this could be happening right now outside my window. And some of it I'm like, this looks like it was 50 years ago. It's just a feeling I have when I'm watching this movie sometimes. I'm like, I have no idea how, like it's fictional, so it can do whatever it wants. It can build whatever world it wants. But I'm like, as a historical artifact, how accurate is this? I don't know.
So I have some extra knowledge from, once again, reading this book, and which seems like it's based on Boyd Oxlade's life and people around him's life, and his own experience living in the northern suburbs. And I do think that from that, it does seem pretty based in reality. It very much the whole story is set in the northern suburbs, which is very ethnically diverse in the 90s. Also very ideologically diverse as well. Diverse is a way to put it. Carl's best friend, whose name is Dave.
We love Dave.
Dave in the movie, in his house, he has a bunch of posters that seem like pro-union, striking, stuff like that, but it's never explicitly talked about. But while reading the book, he is very much a communist. Like, he has a hammer and sickle tattooed on his shoulder.
That's great.
At one point, because he works as a grave digger, which helps massively when you have a body to get rid of. And so when, we have a whole scene in the book that isn't in the movie where he is working at the grave digging site, and a bunch of the people that he works with are not communists like him. But they are, working class, everyday blokes, and they are like a bit misogynistic, a bit racist. They're just like kind of blokey blokes and a bit homophobic as well. And there's this great point of reflection where Dave thinks to himself, oh, is this the working class that I'm like so fond of, that I like idealize so much in my communist beliefs?
Yeah.
Which is really, really, interesting. Like I don't think the book or the movie is as flat at face value as it might seem, as idealistically simple. I think there's a lot of complexities into there in the story and the world building.
Okay.
And I think that you can look at it from a basic lens, but I think that this is very much worth, like you might do like people analyze things like Hamlet, like any Shakespeare, a lot of, highbrow literature. It's like, what does this mean? What does this mean? Let's delve into this. Maybe they were intending to do this. The Great Gatsby, I don't know. But from my experience with other people watching this, they're like, yeah, it's great, but like some people might have issues with some stuff that might at face value be taken as, I don't know, not up to scratch, but is actually...
You think the whole thing's commentary? So what you're suggesting?
The whole thing is commentary.
Well, the whole thing is commentary, but yeah. We can have this debate, I guess.
Yeah, let's have this
devil's
debate.
Advocate.
All right, debate time.
Debate time.
New segment.
Ding, 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 ding.
Ding, ding, ding. Debate time. Debate me. Wait, hold on. We need to go outside. We need to go to a field.
Yeah.
I need it, or a college campus or something. I need to get a trestle table in front of it. I'll say, Death in Brunswick is commentary on things. Debate me. Prove me wrong.
Okay, well, so this is an age-old question of art critique, really, I guess, and I'm thinking especially about Heart of Darkness, which we studied in high school. So, sorry, listeners, if you're not going to follow this, but I won't get I'm not going to go deep into that. I guess I just mean that the core question here is, if a character does bad things or holds a iffy view, is the author implicitly giving the okay to that? Are they passing on those cultural biases? Or are they saying, look at this bad character doing a bad thing, you shouldn't do that?
Yeah, well, I mean, you can't have no bad characteristics in any character. Then what? Then you have no conflict in anything.
No, but I guess I mean, especially
you mean in a main character? Your protagonist?
In terms of actions, yes. And then there's also this thing of like, how are you depicting different minorities or a marginalized gender or a particular ethnic group would be the other one.
Okay. So in terms of this film, we have Carl, who, as we find out throughout the movie, isn't the best guy. He isn't the worst guy, but he's, like I said, he's a bit of a grub of a man. But you might start out rooting for him, but as these things are being revealed, you realize the facade that he's putting on of this sort of cool guy attitude, and that is really nothing that he seems to be present. Like it's everyone who's watched this film has started the film like, oh, this guy seems cool, and then by the end is like, I hate this guy. This guy is terrible. That isn't a coincidence. Like that. There are so many jokes made at Carl's expense. Arguably, the whole film is at Carl's expense. In the end, like literally the last scene, he gets punched in the face and ends up having a broken neck on his wedding day.
Yeah.
Like he's barely hobbling through life and happens to get lucky somewhat. But for the most part, there's a whole scene where his best friend is saying, kill your mother and kill yourself too. I really don't think that the bad traits are being glorified in any in any real way. I always with bad traits in characters, I always like to reference Taika Waititi's comments on presenting Hitler and Nazis. When prepping for filming his film Jojo Rabbit, where he was playing Hitler, you know, he was asked about the prep and like, hey, what research did you do into Hitler? You know, you play a very goofy version, but did you do any research? And I was like, no. Like, I'm a Jewish Māori kid from New Zealand. Hitler would have fucking hated me. No, why would I do any research? Also, I think that we have an issue with presenting villains, and especially Nazis, real world villains, as, you know, these sleek black uniform, you know, terrifying, cool looking characters. Because when you make them look cool, people will think that they're cool.
Yeah.
So make them goofy as hell.
Yeah.
Like, emphasize the ridiculousness of those ideologies and those values and those actions. And I think that's done here appropriately with the the characters that take bad actions. I think for the most part, like, we do have villains in this story. We have the staff at Bombay, the Bombay Club, and the only other characters that we really make fun of in a look how stupid they're obviously being is Carl, the main character.
Yeah, okay, I'm partially convinced. I guess I have secondary questions also about, like, oh, look, it's the Turkish gang who are, or like, oh, look, it's the Greek mob.
Okay, cool. If we go into that, the Turkish gang, like, okay, we have Carl's kitchen hand, Mustafa, who is selling drugs. In the book, he's explicitly selling drugs to Carl as well. But he's selling drugs, he's trading stuff, and he gets caught doing that at the club because he's doing that, you know, on the club's location. And then he gets beat up for it. And then...
by, again, villains who are explicitly portrayed as just nasty people.
Yeah. But then it isn't really it's not strictly said that it's a gang that comes after and takes revenge. It's people who know Mustafa, who's like, hey, you beat up someone that we know, sometimes our family, because his kid is, you know, Mustafa's kid is
sad
with the people who come and take revenge and throw a Molotov cocktail at the club. But I think putting that down to being a gang is also some bias that we have watching it. It's like, well, here's a group of people all of the same ethnicity that aren't white. Must be a gang.
Fair.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think they're also, the Turkish people in this aren't portrayed as villains holistically. Like, they are portrayed as scary people in the way that there's a rivalry between these two groups, the people at Bombay and the friends and family of Mustafa, because, you know, Mustafa was selling drugs, got beat up. You know, that's a conflict. But wait, where was I going with this?
I feel like you got there.
No, I figured it out. When we also have softer sides thrown in, where we have Mustafa's wife and son coming into the club saying, hey, we're looking for my dad. Where is he? Have you seen him? And it's the most heartbreaking scene.
It's awful. It's awful.
And we have the club owner being like, well, sorry, not the club owner, but the
bouncer.
The bouncer saying, no, he's probably off getting whacked, off drinking. And they, you know, the kid, the mum doesn't speak any English, so she's translating through the kid, which is they didn't have to do that, but they are presenting the Turkish experience in Brunswick in the 1990s, realistically, of kids, you know, parents having to translate through their kids.
It's also so sad because you have to hear the grief twice.
But it said, no, Mustafa doesn't drink. Like, my dad doesn't drink.
My dad doesn't drink.
So I don't, like, if this was done at a face value, we'll have, like, Turkish villains or whatever, we'll have the Greeks, blah, 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 you wouldn't have these intricacies because there wouldn't be the care put in, you know, to represent those experiences properly.
Yeah, okay.
Next critique, go, debate me.
Can we back up and tell the listeners what happens in this movie? Because I'm aware that we have not covered the plot at all.
I think I covered the plot.
Okay.
It works in a bar. Hijinks ensue.
Yeah.
People will get beat up. Sure. No, give a rundown.
No, well, we just haven't mentioned the death in Brunswick.
Well, I wasn't sure if you wanted to spoil it.
I think we're well past the point where people who haven't watched this movie are still listening.
Okay, go for it. Give a spoiler rundown.
All right. So hijinks ensue, and the cause of the hijinks is so the kitchen hand. Carl has just been employed as the cook, and his kitchen hand, who's worked there for a long time, and it's dealing drugs, and is Mustafa, and Mustafa comes stumbling in. He's really hurt. It's after he's been beat up by the bouncer Laurie, and comes in, and Carl is holding like I was going to say a tuning fork. That cannot be right. It's some sort of implement used while you roast a chicken, right? That's what that is?
No, I think it's something to do with steak, like it's a steak fork or something.
Carl's holding that.
Yeah.
And he accidentally kills Mustafa.
Yeah.
And so the second half...
Who's coming at him because Laurie said to Mustafa that Carl sold him out.
Yeah.
Carl was the one who told... Yeah.
Yeah. So the second half of the film is Carl and Dave trying to cover up that. I was going to say murder. Maybe it's a manslaughter?
It's less them trying to cover it up because they just bury the body.
Yeah, get rid of the body and then try and act normal for a bit.
Yeah, and during that time, as we said, the friends and family of Mustafa, people who knew him, go back to Bombay. Like, we saw you, like, we knew you were beating him up. Where is he? Blah, blah, blah. And then there's retaliations on both sides.
Carl's there when that happens, so he's being blamed by both sides. Which, I mean, yeah, it's not his fault, but he was there for all of it. And,
and he did kill
if he
Mustafa.
wasn't there, it wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
I kind of, and then, yes, there's, I guess, multiple plot threads. Like, it's tempting to describe it as like, and then this happens, and then they're hiding the motive. It's like, also Carl's mum is here. Also Carl and Sophie are dating, and that's a whole thing. There's many things happen. It feels, one of my notes that I wrote down after our sixth watch was, I really felt the adapted from a novel this time. Which is not bad, but I just, noticed that not episodic, I guess just the multiplicity of plot threads that were going on.
I feel like that's what any good film is, though. You have A plot, B plot, C plot, you're jumping between them. You want characters to be depthful. Yeah. You don't want them to be one note. I feel like that's why a lot of things that are adapted from being, like movies that are adapted from being books, have extra depth in them, because you sort of take that depth that is in a thick novel that maybe is jumping around between different characters, and you funnel it down to the essentials, whilst not, all of that extra stuff sort of becomes backstory, or
I was going to say, or as the audience
implied.
you read that in. Like a character says a line, and then when you know more about them, you go, oh, they're saying that because they feel this, because this other thing that happened off screen or whatever.
An example of that, when Carl and Sophie hook up for the first time, afterwards they're like, oh shit, we didn't use protection. And Sophie's like, well, I need to run to the bathroom. And he's like, no, stay, let's hook up again. And she's like, no, you know how I told you, I got in trouble at school for something. It's very vague. In the book, it's more explicit what's happened. And
what's this?
She got pregnant while in school, in high school, when she was like 16, I think. And then had the kid and had to give it up for adoption because her dad was like, yo,
oh my God.
Don't have a kid.
Oh my God.
There's so much extra depth in the book than the movie, as we were just saying, like there is. But, so there's little one-liners that also maybe at the time, with just the way that it's said in the phrasing, audience would have understood what it meant. Because I do find that a lot of the terms used kind of get lost, or you might need to, I don't know, keep a keen ear out to figure out what exactly the intention is with the Australian slang used in certain terms. Yeah,
it does have a very particular like rhythm to it, or like the language has a particular sound. I'm thinking of when Carl first asks Soph, like, hey, do you want to come over? She goes, nah, shit, no. And it's like, how does your mouth even make that shape? Like, nah, it's just, I think it's and the way Laurie speaks, it's fascinating to me.
Yeah. As I've been going through the book, I've been underlining all of the fun little slang terms that the people use. It's mostly Sophie, to be honest, but things like saying suck, like as, nah, you suck.
Huh.
And she does that in the movie as
Yeah,
well. But,
yeah.
like using the term suck in like a, I don't even know.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to explain it. But yeah, there's a bunch of like funny little lost.
Fascinating. Do you have any more on hand?
Do I have any more on hand?
Do you have pages marked? No stress if not. I'm just like, what else is there?
Let's see. Snot. Carl. Oh, here we go.
Like as a...
Here's one thing that I don't know. Oh, I think Sophie's saying this. No, of course not. That was Laura anyway. He goes the other day. He goes, that Carl's a cat. I'm gonna snot him one day. I think by a cat he means gay because it says that Carl's a cat, a poof, you know. I'm gonna snot him one day. So like yeah, I think that even in that one sentence there are 3 terms that people don't really use anymore at all. Yeah. So I don't know if snot means like kill.
Yeah, like beat up?
Yeah. Also there's the term skippy. You know, don't talk like a skippy, which is...
What's that?
Someone says, a skippy, what's that? And the person replies, like, that's an ocker, you know?
Oh, thanks, that clarifies.
Do you know ocker, like the...
No.
You don't know ocker? Okay.
No.
Like, Australian ocker is talking real, like, nasally, like, yeah, man.
Oh,
yeah,
that...
ocker.
I heard that word because Chris Hemsworth did that in Furiosa. People were talking about that accent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So apparently a skippy is the same... is another term for an ocker, which is another thing that we don't use anymore. So,
oh, hilarious!
Lots of fun little phrases in this. Yeah.
You want to talk about all the locations in this?
Did you have anything you wanted to debate me on anymore?
No.
No?
No, I'm resigning.
You're resigning?
You thought about this too much.
I've thought about this too much. You reckon? I've got a nice stainless steel pencil. That's right, stainless steel pencil clipped to my copy of Death in Brunswick.
Yep.
Damn right I've thought about this too much. Yeah, we can chat about some of the locations. So a lot of this was filmed in Brunswick. It's great if you have been to Brunswick or know it well or are living here.
Specifically like the Sydney Road, Dawson Street corner.
Yep.
And those and is it Albert?
Albert's just north of us.
Yeah.
It's between Albert and Dawson.
Like that block? Oh boy.
Yeah. Which happens to be right near where we live. So that's excellent for us. So you get this fun experience while watching it where you're like, hey, I know that. Hey, I've been there.
Hey.
Oh, that's great. It took us a while to figure out where the Bombay Club was.
Yes.
It's where What the Putt currently is.
The mini golf place.
In 2024. But a few things weren't filmed here, curiously.
Outrageous.
Some of which have explanations when you're reading the book, though. So let's see. I've got a list here of some of the locations. There we go. Some of the locations that aren't in Brunswick. So the Brunswick Baths is featured heavily in this film. There's a whole scene there. We see the outside of it. Now it's been renovated since they filmed. But the inside of the baths is actually filmed at a pool at Melbourne Grammar.
So there you go.
I think because the Brunswick Baths is an outside pool. So I don't know. I guess they were looking for an inside venue. I didn't know that it was an outside pool because when you look at the front of the Brunswick Baths.
It says baths on it.
It's a big building.
Yeah.
So... yeah.
And to be fair, I think that's why they made that choice, because it would look like a continuity error if they stepped inside the building and then they're at an outdoor pool.
Yeah.
So I get it.
Or maybe they just didn't let them.
Yeah, or they didn't let them in, or
The graveyard that the burying of the body takes place in.
You might think surely that happens up on Alexandra Parade,
right?
Street. Surely.
The big graveyard there. But no, it was actually filmed at the Brighton Cemetery, all the way down south. Now, here's another interesting tidbit. The cemetery in the book that Dave works at is actually the big one up in Coburg.
Ah.
Yeah.
So 3 cemeteries.
Yeah. So
the big one up in Coburg.
I went by it the other day.
As you do.
Not to I'm not that into Death in Brunswick, right?
Are you not?
Well, I was, as I'm reading the book, they make reference to a dead person, like a gravestone. I'm like, I wonder if that's there. I wonder if that's a real person. Some sort of governor or something. No, but I was up getting I don't know. I was going to a pet store. But I went by it and I was like, oh, this is the one they're referencing. So that's interesting. Carl and Sophie go to the cinema at one point in this film.
Yes.
The Progress Cinema.
Yeah.
That's in Coburg. So not too far off.
And Brunswick didn't have a cinema back then, I don't think. I don't know if we've ever had a cinema.
Well, we do now.
Until now.
And then there is the church near the end of the film. The one where divine intervention happens.
So many options up Sydney Road.
So many. But this one is in South Yarra. It's a St. Thomas Aquinas? How do you pronounce that?
Aquinas, probably?
Aquinas Church. I think this is because Carl's mother lives in like the south.
That checks out.
So I think that's...
And I mean that with a fence. Bloody Southsiders. Yeah, that's right. This is where the turf war begins.
Yeah, North Side's always been better than the South Side.
Always.
Stay north of the river. Jeez. But everything else basically takes place, in Brunswick. There's a lot on Sydney Road. There's a lot along the train tracks as well. Like, we could just list a bunch of locations, but that would be silly, and we'd be doing something that someone else has already done. If you're interested,
we gotta talk about Paul.
If you're interested in the filming locations of Death in Brunswick, there is an excellent YouTube video by one Paul Hagel called Death in Brunswick 1990 filming locations.
That's what it says on the tin.
Check it out. We watched it, I think, after our second viewing. We were like, oh, let's see if we can find the locations. Just searched it up. It was the first video. We're like, great, let's watch this. And it's a brilliantly crafted video. It includes a soundtrack from it. It's this guy, Paul, just running around Brunswick, finding the different locations.
Puts a little inset of the scene and then where he's standing, and you're like, yep.
Side-by-side comparison.
Looks the same. Or it's changed a bit.
Sometimes even gets a clip, like a sound clip of the scene that's happening and plays it in the background of the current shot of the place. So,
above and beyond the Call of Duty. Because the Call of Duty was no one was expected to do this. No one asked for this, but we definitely needed it.
I think this plays into your idea that this is somehow an insanely popular cult film that everyone knows about. Because there is one guy on YouTube who has...
Yeah, I think that honestly has done a lot for my perception of the size of this movie.
A ridiculous fascination with...
Okay, look, this is not some indie movie. I mean, it is. But it's not a tiny thing that no one saw. It made $2.7 million.
Okay.
Which is like $5 million nowadays.
Yeah.
It was, I think, the second biggest Australian movie that year. And it also won an award for the music, I think.
Okay.
It wasn't nothing, is what I'm saying.
I do have some trivia on this film if you want to get into some actual trivia. So, yes, this film did win one award. It had 6 nominations for awards. Those awards, so it won the APRA Music Award for Best Film Score. It was nominated for the AFI Award for Best Film, Best Director, Best Actor in a Lead Role, Best Screenplay, Original or Adapted, as well as Best Achievement in Cinematography. But it lost all of them because it wasn't.
You want to do more trivia first? Then I got a game.
I got more trivia. I got a bunch more trivia. So, now, Boyd Oxlade helped write the screenplay.
I only noticed that my 6th time watching it.
I noticed that because it's referenced in the intro to the book.
So did he write the intro or someone else?
No, someone else wrote the intro.
Classic.
Boyd is unfortunately passed away a few years ago, which sucks because I'd really love to pick his mind on.
Imagine seeing him around.
The film's director, John Reuben, had grown up in a migrant community himself in the same Melbourne city, but in a suburb of Pascoe Vale. So it's still very close. So they got someone, once again, who knew what it was like to grow up in that time with those, with
Pascoe Vale is honorary Brunswick West. It's fine.
Yeah, it's Brunswick West, which isn't
Brunswick.
Not Brunswick anymore. So I feel like
we'll adopt him.
Once again, as Brunswick was a very Greek, Turkish migrant community, I think they did it pretty well. as someone who wasn't around at the time and could not say for sure. So the script was also rejected by a lot of people.
I bet.
Some would say all major distributors.
After it was... Oh, the script. Yeah.
Yeah. But it was backed by Film Victoria and the Australian Film Finance Corporation.
We love public funding.
And Overseas Film Group in Los Angeles.
That sounds like a front. That sounds like a mafia business. What line of business are you in? Movies, because I'm in Hollywood. What's your business called? Overseas Film Group.
Reuben, they're just the friends and family of the movie people. Not everyone is a mafia gang just because they know someone else.
But they're all white. They must be a gang.
The movie that's showing in the cinemas, in the Progress cinemas when on Sophie and Carl's date, is the film Howling 3 from 1987. This is different to the movie in the book.
Probably a rights thing. What do they watch in the book?
Do you have time for me to check?
Boy, do I. Stolen for time. Stolen for time. We're gonna find out what movie they're watching. That's why I'm stolen for time. Stolen for time. It's not Howling 3. It's not Howling 3. It's gonna be a movie from slightly earlier because this script wasn't written
Alien Battlestar. But the film wasn't seen at Progress Cinemas in the book. It was seen at Cinema Centre on Burke Street.
Aha!
Also, when Carl is getting ready for his date, he puts on black jeans, pink socks, and his ripple soles, and he also ties a scarf loosely around his neck, which is a nod to the future film Jurassic Park, in which...
What?
In which... in which fucking what's the main character's real name?
Sam Neill?
Sam Neill ties a scarf around his neck in Jurassic Park.
Sure. I thought you were going to say in which the brachiosaurs have really long necks.
No. He does that same one thing.
Imagine if we were watching Jurassic Park every month. I would be so much happier.
I would actually not be. Because there wouldn't be anything fun to delve into.
Yes, there would. There's so much. There's a book. There's 2 books to read.
It wouldn't be something that we actually are discovering anything for the first time.
Because everyone's thought of everything or whatever.
This is something that we actually get to, archaeologicalize ourselves, if you want to talk in Jurassic terms. Okay. This film has also been credited as the first modern Australian black comedy.
I think that this movie is really funny, and it's working best when it's trying to be funny. And the bits of it that pretend to be serious work best when they're secretly funny. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's a sex scene in this that's very funny. There's a scene where a character is praying to God, and it's pretending to be serious, but it works because of the juxtaposition, and it's really funny. You know what I mean? I guess what I'm saying, my hot take here, comedies work best when they're funny.
I have one more.
You got more trivia.
Yeah, I got one more trivia. I'm also, shout out to IMDb for a lot of this trivia, but they also have a section called Goofs, and there's one goof.
Oh!
In the scene where Carl goes to church with his mother, in the rite of peace, when shaking hands with Mustafa, a boom mic appears at the top left. Which none of us have caught so far.
I actually have not seen that. There's regular attendees of our monthly screening have also pointed out a couple of just small continuity errors in the sense of, like, you can see that was shot separately to this, obviously, because that's how movies work. But I like that indie edge. I like that you're like, yeah, they shot this, like, out on the street and wherever they could, and just asking, hey, can we use this prop, please? And we'll give it back at the end of the day.
It's a real movie.
It's a real movie.
It's
like
a real
you see
movie.
at the cinema. Not nowadays like you see at the cinema.
We saw it at the cinema.
We saw it at the cinema.
If you go to a good cinema that shows real movies from 1990.
Movies. I have so many questions about the other people in that cinema. Like, who were they? And what was their long, narrow, windy path to ending up watching Death in Brunswick at FOMO?
I can answer that for you.
Yeah?
It was a bunch of old people who went and saw it because they wanted to see a film that they liked from their childhood. That's right. 30-year-olds. I was sat next to someone
who watched
who
it
was
in the cradle.
A lot older than 30.
Yes. In both in terms of their age and their attitude.
Sure. I guess so. I would say that their attitude was juvenile in their understanding of how cinemas work.
Nice.
Because we were having a gaff of a time.
Oh my God, we were cackling. I would say the word is cackling.
Laughing out. We were LOLing. And I was aware that we were in a cinema full of people, but I was like, we're in a cinema. I'm gonna laugh. I'm gonna chuckle. We were having a great time. We were basically, our chuckles were rolling off. There was a joke. We laughed a lot, and then we chuckled until the next joke. Like
Maybe we missed one sometimes.
the whole time there was a consistent chuckling happening.
Yeah, except for the really graphic, awful point where we went in the graveyard.
Oh yeah,
But then we cackled again afterwards.
But this apparently was a bit too much for the old lady sitting to my left, because there was one excellent joke about school holidays about midway through this film that I just couldn't get enough of. I basically fell out of my seat with how hard I laughed. And midway through that laugh, this woman turns to me and she says, "Could you please laugh less? Thank you."
What a way of phrasing it also.
Laugh less?
Could you be quieter? Could you laugh less?
I'm in here enjoying this film. This is a good film. I'm sorry, but I bought a ticket just like if I'm enjoying. I'm sorry I'm not sitting there, dead face.
Yeah.
What do you want from me?
What are you doing in this movie? What are you doing?
Ridiculous.
I liked our conspiracy theory afterwards that she was some extra who'd starred in the movie. And she was like wanting to reminisce about her moment of stardom.
I think specifically her scene was just coming up. And she
Yeah,
went, shut, everyone shut up because this is
Yeah.
my scene.
You think she was one of the kids?
I think she was one of the kids. Yeah. 30-year-olds look old. I think that's also why every time since when we've been watching this film and having people over, I have explicitly mentioned, hey, everyone, you're going to be talking.
Laugh and chat through this film.
Laugh and chat. It doesn't matter. We watch this every month. You won't
If
be
you
able to
miss
understand
something,
it anyway.
It's fine.
You'll figure it out in the months ahead. I am going to recommend this film to all people. If you live in Brunswick, if you live in Melbourne, if you've spent any time in the northern suburbs, if you haven't, if you want just a slice of life, a little comedic black comedy slice of life of the northern suburbs in 1991, I recommend Death in Brunswick wholeheartedly.
I recommend watching Death in Brunswick 1 to 2 times. It's really good. It's really funny.
I really don't like that you undermine me every single time I recommend this. You're like, no, I think you're wrong. I think it should be less.
It's good. Is your favorite joke the school holidays joke?
My favorite joke changes each time because also I hear new jokes each time.
My favorite joke has to be the bottle joke.
The bottle joke.
This is how you do it. Ah!
Oh, that's a really good joke.
Yeah, it's a good one.
That's great. Yeah, there's a bit of this film where Carl tries to smash a bottle, like a classic Australian glassing technique. You know it, you've seen it, but isn't strong enough to break the bottle. And then the bouncer who he's facing off against does it as well. But that bottle smashes, obviously, because that's what he's trying to do to glass someone. But it smashes in his hand and just his hand starts bleeding out. It's so good.
It's great. The pacing, the rhythm of it, the physical comedy.
It's perfect.
It's great. I also like that. Look, we're going to get carried away on a bunch of rabbit holes here, but Laurie the bouncer loses every single fight he's in. There's one scene where he carries out someone who's being unruly in the club, and then he gets winded by Dave, and then he gets beaten up by Carl and Sophie, and then at the end he gets, spoilers folks, just beheaded and chucked in a bin. It's great job, bouncer. Well done.
Once again, I think that look, I know we're no longer in the debate section, but with taking that theology of Taika Waititi, this bouncer man is, besides, everything is bad about him besides his fashion. Because if someone wore that in 2024, queer icon of the 21st century.
100%.
It's all leather, studs, it's great. But besides that, he sexually harasses Sophie. He is racist towards Mustafa and his family. And all of the minorities in this, but he's made
awful employer.
Yeah, he is made to look like a fool at every turn.
Yeah, it's a cockroach pizza at one point.
Yeah, it's no, these villains, their ideologies are goofy and they're idiots. That's why they believe in these stupid
Ideologies
things.
are so goofy, they're riding with their left foot forward.
Very good.
Right foot forward?
I think the more I'm talking about this, the more I'm liking it. Screw up my recommendation before of, watch this film. I think just inject it straight into your bloodstream at this point. Like,
Just stick it in. Okay, book or movie first, though.
Oh, movie first?
Yeah.
Absolutely, as always.
What did you just say?
Always.
You've just stripped all your credibility away.
Always watch the
Everything
movie.
you've built up over the last hour, you now sound like a fool and a degenerate.
Let me tell you why. Right? If you watch the movie, you'll think, this is pretty good. I get to visualize this. I get, you get your grapplings on things. You understand what the characters are intended to look like, what the arcs look like. And then when you read the book afterwards, you get a bunch of extra depth.
2 positive experiences.
Yes, it's 2 positive experiences.
Rather
Not
than.
only that, you also get extra, I don't know, like you're already invested. There's a thing about visual media like movies or TV shows where they grip that bit of your brain. Like there's a reason why we all look at fucking screens, you know? They grip that bit of your I want to see things part of your brain, right? They grip that, they pull it, and they get your attention. So because the film or TV has already gotten your attention, you're already invested in these characters and these stories, which means if you're reading a long-ass book, you have some driving force.
No, I am a purist. I want you to slog through 3/4 of the book not enjoying it, realize that there's something in it in the last 50 pages, then go and watch the movie and be disappointed again because it's not exactly what the book was. I want that self-flagellating, masochistic, awful experience because only then are you a true fan.
And then only then can you not actually just enjoy still a pretty cool battle at Hogwarts.
Oh!
If you watch the movies before reading the books, you'll know that Hermione's name is fucking Hermione and not Hermione, you idiot. Watch the movie, read the book after.
I do think that's the correct choice on this one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just to be clear. Don't read Death in Brunswick. Or do? I don't know. Watch the movie first, though, so that you know,
You know what's
have
up.
something to hold on to.
Yeah.